Welcome to the Remembering Session. I'm Chrystal Hart. I'm a wife, a mother to 3 boys, and an intuitive guide. I'm a Reiki Master, a sound healer, an Akashic Records practitioner, and a certified QHHT and BQH practitioner. And I would not be doing this work if healing hadn't first changed my own life. That feels important to say because this podcast is not just about a modality. It's about lived experience. It's about what becomes possible when we begin listening to ourselves differently. For a long time, I was living in survival mode, and I didn't even realize it. I was functioning, showing up for everyone else, carrying emotional weight and generational patterns without language for what was happening inside my own body. I was disconnected from my nervous system, from clarity, from my own inner knowing. My healing journey began in 2018 through personal growth spaces and group coaching. But everything truly shifted in 2020. During the pandemic, I became a full-time teacher to my youngest son, who was struggling both academically and behaviorally. And it became very clear to me that I could not support him or anyone else without first supporting myself. That was the moment I turned inward. I began working deeply with meditation, journaling, breath work, Reiki, sound healing, and nervous system regulation. I did extensive inner child work. I learned how to sit with emotions instead of pushing them away. I learned how to create safety in my body before asking it to heal. And what surprised me wasn't just that I felt better. It was that my capacity expanded, more patience, more presence, more clarity, more softness in my nervous system. My relationships shifted. The way I parented shifted. The way I held space shifted. And that foundational work, regulation, restoration, safety is still at the heart of everything I offer. I facilitate restorative Reiki and sound sessions. I guide transformational healing focused on inner child and lineage work. I work within the Akashic Records. All of those modalities matter deeply because deep healing does not happen without safety. And then once my own system was more resourced, I was introduced to quantum healing hypnosis. And something in me knew this was different, not because it was flashy, but because of the depth, because of what I began witnessing. So let's talk about what QHHT and BQH actually are. QHHT stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. BQH stands for Beyond Quantum Healing. Both are modalities that allow access to the subconscious mind in a very intentional way. You'll hear me use terms like subconscious, higher self, oversoul. For the purposes of this podcast, those terms are interchangeable. They refer to the deeper intelligence within you, the part of you that holds memory, patterns, purpose, protection, and wisdom beyond the analytical mind. This isn't about belief systems. It's about access. Access to parts of you that you already know. Now, let me explain how I facilitate these sessions because education matters. I conduct these sessions in 2 parts. Part 1 is the preparation and life review. We sit together and go through your health history because in these sessions, we can ask the subconscious about physical symptoms. When did they begin? What was happening in your life at the time? Was there an emotional event, a stressor, or trauma that may have contributed? Often, physical manifestations in the body have emotional roots. The body stores what we don't process, and the subconscious can connect those dots in a way that feels direct and undeniable. And we can ask for healing to occur in the physical body. We also go through your entire life story, your childhood, adolescence, pivotal moments, relationships, patterns. We are looking for threads, recurring themes, emotional imprints. Patterns are not random. Clients also bring 12 to 15 questions they would like to ask their higher self. Questions like, what is my life purpose? Why does this pattern keep repeating? Is there healing needed around this childhood memory? Are there soul contracts influencing this relationship? We refine those questions together. This first part builds clarity, intention, and safety. And then we move into the session itself, the hypnosis state. The hypnosis state is not what people often imagine. It is not unconsciousness. It is not losing control. It is the natural dreamlight state you enter every day before falling asleep and before waking up. That in-between space, the theta state. The only difference is that we remain there intentionally for about 2 hours. You are aware. You can hear me. You are speaking. In the regression portion, clients may experience a past life, remain in this lifetime, revisit childhood memories, see symbolic imagery, enter other realms, feel deep emotional or physical sensation. There is no script. The only thing we know is this. What comes forward is what the subconscious wants to show, and it is shown because it is impacting this current life. Nothing random appears. Nothing is forced. After we move through the regression, I call forward the subconscious, higher self, oversoul. This is where physical healing can occur. I ask for a body scan. Clients often feel sensations, warmth, pressure, movement as healing occurs. Sometimes there are areas needing healing that the client wasn't consciously aware of. Then I ask the prepared questions. And here's something that fascinates people. The answers come through the client. I ask the question, they respond, not from their analytical mind, but from that deeper state where the subconscious can speak clearly. Clients are often surprised by how direct and authoritative the response feels. And yes, they remember the session most of the time. This is not stage hypnosis. It can feel like a vivid dream, clear in the moment but fading afterward, which is why every session is recorded. Listening to the recording is part of the integration. Each time they listen, new layers surface. Integration is where transformation deepens. Now, I want to say something very important. Expectation must be released. This is one of the most critical parts of the successful session. You are led to this work because your subconscious is ready. Your higher self knows what you need to see and what it wants to show you. Whatever comes forward is exactly what is meant to come forward. No more. No less. When expectation drops, trust rises. And when trust rises, something always shifts. Sometimes dramatically, sometimes subtly, but something changes. because remembering your own power changes how you move through your life. And I also want to tell you where the name, the Remembering Session, came from, because that wasn't random. The QHHT and BQH session itself is a remembering. It's not about gaining something new. It's about remembering what has actually always been within you. Remembering your clarity, remembering your truth, remembering your power. And then there's the second layer. The structure of this podcast is also a remembering. Each episode will be a conversation between me and a client after they've had time to integrate their session, where we sit down and remember it together. What came forward, what shifted, what felt significant, what changed afterward. The inspiration from this podcast came from 2 clients who reached out after their sessions and asked if we could meet for coffee. They wanted to talk about what had happened after, to share their transformations, to hear my perspective on what I had witnessed. And as we were sitting there talking through their experiences, I remember thinking, this is the conversation people need to hear, because there's so much that happens in these sessions, and even more that unfolds afterward. The remembering doesn't stop when the session ends. It continues. And that's when it hit me. This should be a podcast, not to sensationalize it, not to dramatize it, but to educate, to let people hear real reflections from real clients, to give you both perspectives, the lived experience and the practitioner's lens, because healing doesn't end when the session ends. Integration is where the real transformation lives. I chose to center the podcast around QHHT and BQH because of the depth I witness in these sessions. But I want to be clear, this work is supported by everything else I offer, by regulation, by restorative work, by nervous system safety. That's why I offer QHHT BQH sessions by consultation only, not to create exclusivity, but to create safety. Your readiness matters. Your nervous system matters. Your capacity to integrate matters. The consultation is simply a conversation. If listening to this sparks curiosity, that curiosity matters. Curiosity is often the first whisper of the subconscious. This is the remembering session, and these are stories of what becomes possible when we access the subconscious mind, release expectation, and remember who we truly are.